It is finally here. We wait every 4 years. The World Cup is on the horizon. And you might not think that it's Barcelona related, but no, it's very Barcelona related. Not only there are 15 players from Blaugrana playing in the competition, but there are so many other players that I could see donning a Blaugrana shirt in the future. Welcome to episode 821 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hilton, and I will be having a ton of watch-alongs on Big Up throughout this competition, so make sure you look out for the graphic that I might be having on screen now. And if you don't see it on screen now, I'll be posting it on YouTube, I'll be posting it across social media. Wherever you tend to find me is where I will let you know what I'll be streaming. And then we're going to be talking here on the YouTube channel and the podcast apps about a number of those important games, mainly related to the US and Spain games, but also to anywhere where a Barcelona player might be playing, including France, Brazil, you name it, we'll have it here on the channel. So before we dive into the players that I want you to be watching, I want to remind you about the players for Barcelona that will be taking part in the tournament. The 15 players that Barcelona are sending are close to the top of the list for other clubs, just shy of Manchester City's 19, Bayern Munich's 18, and Arsenal and PSG with 16. So fifth on that list is Barcelona with 15 players, the majority of which, of course, are with Spain, including Eric Garcia, Ferran Torres, Gavi, Dani Olmo, Joan Garcia, Lamine Yamal, Pedri, and Pau Cubarsí. That's why, yes, we're going to be watching a ton of Spain for this World Cup, and they are expected, along with France, to go pretty deep in this competition. Speaking of France, in Group I, it's Jules Koundé. By the way, Spain playing in Group H. And then Uruguay, also in Group H with Spain, is Ronald Araujo. Brazil, Group C, that's Rafinha. Netherlands, Group F, Frankie de Jong. Portugal, Group K, and the way he's been balling out for Portugal in these friendlies, feels like João Cancelo will probably be a Barcelona player, so we're going to say Group K for João Cancelo. We're going to be watching that one too. For Egypt, Group G, not sure how much we actually have to watch Egypt to see the few minutes that Hamza Abdelkarim are going to get, but hey, keep it on your radar. Again, that's Egypt Group G. And then England Group L, it's technically Marcus Rashford on his way out, maybe back on his way in, and Anthony Gordon technically on his way in, and he will officially become a Barcelona player as this competition is going on July the 1st. Okay, so those are the 15 players plus technically one, minus one, plus another one that are playing for Barcelona at the World Cup. Plenty to keep track of. But what I wanted to do, and I've seen a lot of other previews for people who are diving deeper into the big players, the stars, some of the better stories. There's so much World Cup preview stuff out there. Again, let me know what you're watching and what you want to see more of as I go through the World Cup. Again, I really do want to cater this content throughout the World Cup period to this audience, so let me know. Because the first thing I'm doing today is I'm going group by group, kind of reminding you, if you haven't really been paying attention like me, which teams are in which group, and what so many have already done in highlighting players. I'm going to put that Barcelona spin on it. There are players that I will be watching from a Barcelona perspective, either from a Barcelona past, Barcelona's possible future, or just out of curiosity of some link sometime that didn't come to fruition even 10 plus years ago. You'll see when we get there. And yes, there are countries, of course, that do not have connections to Barcelona, and very likely in the future, due to quality and the fact that there are countries that are still working on their footballing infrastructure, it's going to be a little while before they have a Barcelona player in their squads. But I still want to pick a player or two, so when you're watching them, you've got a good reason. And as I go group by group, maybe I'm doing this for the algorithm a little bit on YouTube, but of course, I'm going to be messing up these pronunciations. I will tell you, I've tried my best. I've looked up as many names as I possibly could. I looked up as many country pronunciations. I think I've got those down pretty well. But as far as the names, yes, I'm throwing so many names at you, and I will obviously be trying my best, but I will get some wrong, especially with how fast I like to talk. So I will try to slow things down a little bit, get those pronunciations right. But hey, as I always tell you, if you've got feedback, I never take it as an insult if I say something wrong. Let me know I said it wrong. Let me know how to say it in maybe your native tongue, and I'll try to get it better next time. All right, now let's do it. Here are all groups and at least a player to watch for every team at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Starting in Group A and starting with Mexico, this is probably the least surprising name on this entire list. So, yeah, okay, you can stop watching and stop listening. No, I'm just kidding here. But of course, Gilberto Mora, the Tijuana teenager. I've already had a full video calling him the next Pedri on the YouTube channel and the podcast app. So he, of course, is my pick. He's the youngest player in the tournament, and Barcelona don't need another player in that position. But of course, he is the one I'm picking. But also with Mexico, there are other names to mention. Armando Gonzalez from Chivas Guadalajara, 23-year-old striker with a 15 million euro valuation. He scored 24 goals in 35 appearances this season. He is nicknamed the Hormiga because of a childhood fear of ants, but if he stomps the rest of Group A, well, you get my pun. There you go. And I did see one link to Barcelona from Armando Gonzalez a few weeks ago that I think probably had to do with getting a nicer, better contract with Chivas Guadalajara. Let's do Czechia next, and this is the first one. I'll be honest, there's not really anybody that I'm going to have a keen eye for Czechia. Maybe Adam Zolzek. He's a 23-year-old center forward for Hoffenheim now, but a few years ago, he was a Sparta Prague attacking midfield prodigy linked with Barcelona. Hugo Sochurik is the new 17-year-old midfield prospect for Sparta Prague, so obviously I am curious to see what the 17-year-old is all about. South Korea makes me make my first non-Barcelona pick, but it was a player that I always wish had played for Barcelona, and that is Heung-min Son in what could be his last World Cup. He was always on that 10-player short list of guys I would have loved to see in Blaugrana. And if we're not going with Son, a bunch of pundits have picked Johan Bay as the one to watch, 22-year-old attacking midfielder for Stoke City. But again, I feel like I'm not jamming that into a Barcelona perspective, but it is one of those players that should be exciting. For South Africa, it is center back Mdekazeli Mbakazazi, 20-year-old for the Chicago Fire of MLS, is the youngest player for Bafana Bafana, so he is the pick. He is left-footed, and while his manager, and this is a good story to look up, while his manager didn't love his move to the U.S., outwardly being upset with it, he might be exactly prepared for this summer's environment. And hey, he is a 20-year-old left-footed, big-bodied center back, so yes, he is one to watch for me for South Africa. Group B takes us to another host nation in Canada. And for Canada, despite Tejan Buchanan being the one La Liga player on this team with Villarreal, I think Ismael Kone from Sassuolo is the pick. He's a do-everything center midfielder, and I think he's ready for a big payday come the end of the summer. I did watch him with CF Montreal in the MLS, and he's one of those sneaky picks like an Alphonso Davies, to be honest with you. Maybe that's a Canadian thing, but I'm like, yeah, that guy's definitely got a bright future. Bosnia and Herzegovina, I think there are a few almost Barcelona potential players here, but not necessarily all the way something I could commit to. So I think the number one player to watch, of course, is Enan Dzeko. Can he still do it at 40? I'm not aged there yet, so I always want to see if he can still do it at 40. Maybe I can still do it at my age. But at 19 years old, Len center back Nidal Celik is the second youngest player in the squad and was a captain of his Sarajevo team at 18 before moving to France. The youngest in the squad is 18-year-old left winger Karim Alishbashkovic, and the reason why he's not necessarily the name is that Bayer Leverkusen are already the big name club that are taking a chance on him, so he's now already going to be too expensive, I think, for Barcelona to take a chance on a position they have so many in. To Switzerland, and with Juan Gamper's Swiss roots, I always look for that next great Swiss player for Barcelona, but a lot like a bunch of these teams, I just don't see them in this squad. Brielle Mbolo is still just 29 years old and playing for a fun Rennes team in France, but he is not my pick. I think I'll go with Johan Manzambi of Freiburg, 20-year-old Cam, who leans into the attacking midfield stuff. He's probably going to be playing on the wing for Switzerland at the World Cup, but he also domestically in the Bundesliga does play a bunch of center midfield. For Qatar, it's another Barcelona potential thing. I just don't see it. But Akram Afif, Qatar's best player, he came through Sevilla and Villarreal's academies briefly and then moved back to Qatar 6 years ago. Qatar's team has the lowest market value according to Transfermarkt, so I had to kind of just go with their top player. But I will say with a lot of these teams that I obviously don't have a Barcelona-related pick, I do hope there is one player from 24 to 28 who really does use this stage to propel themselves to a big money move. Let's talk Brazil now, and outside of Rafinha, of course, I'm going to upset a few people with this. I am unfortunately interested to see what Endrick does. I hate that I enjoyed what the 19-year-old did at Lyon so much knowing that he's returning to Real Madrid this summer. He will never play for Barcelona. Almost put that in stone. As is probably the case, too, with 19-year-old Bournemouth winger Ryan, simply because Ryan plays on the right behind where Lamine Yamal would play. But I think we'll all be watching Neymar in his last World Cup if he can be fit and Ancelotti wants to use him. Neymar still has star power and still, of course, has an emotional connection to Somone Blaugrana. So, yes, it's going to be Neymar as the pick. Haiti is another tough one. Maybe someday in the future, but no players are joining Barcelona from this team anytime soon. That said, Wineski Pierre, a 20-year-old defensive midfielder who probably isn't going to even play in the tournament, he's the only player in the squad based in Haiti and had a tough job making the squad. And if he did have a World Cup moment, that would be unbelievably awesome for him. The two main forwards are Dukins Nazone, who got stuck en route to World Cup training due to his club being in Iran. and Wilson Isidore. He made the switch from France to Haiti to give this team an attacker to put their hopes in. Both those players for different reasons, very interesting names. For Scotland, I'd love to give you a Steve Archibald 2.0 with a Blaugrana connection, but I think at this point with the financial might of the EPL, any big Scottish talents are going to be swept up to the EPL or are getting major money to stay with Celtics or Rangers, which is why I'm going with 19-year-old Rangers left winger Finlay Curtis. So if he does something big, let's see where he goes this summer. And by the way, only 3 Rangers players and 2 Celtic players are in this team. That's the same number, Celtic players, as Bournemouth players. This next one in Morocco, believe it or not, has a ton of picks. And if you've been seeing what they've been doing at the youth levels, at the U17 World Cup, the U20 World Cup, in the future, there's going to probably be even more Moroccan names. And we also know Lamine Yamal. He's got Spanish roots, of course, but Equatorial Guinea roots and Moroccan roots. They wanted him bad, but Morocco still has a ton of talented players. The correct answer for this one as which player you should watch is former Blaugrana, Yves Abday. Whether he returns to Barcelona somehow, which is less likely than him going to Newcastle to place Anthony Gordon this summer, he's going to get some buzz this summer no matter what. But don't sleep on former La Masia player Chadi Riyad. He's still 22 and playing for Crystal Palace, and he looks really competent when healthy, but injuries continue to be a problem for him. The star boy for this Morocco team is Ayoub Bayati, the 18-year-old metronome of Lille. His partnership with Real Betis' Sofan Amrabat, remember those Barcelinks during the 2022 World Cup? Those two together are what could power Morocco to another semifinal appearance. Group D sees the final of the 3 hosts in the US of A. Of course, I'll be watching everybody on the team of my home country, but I do try to imagine where these players might fit in Barcelona. Diego Cochin didn't get the call-up and wouldn't play if he did, while Serginho Dest is still doing his thing, and I'm excited to see what he can do after regaining his confidence at PSV. Outside of Dest, I'm really interested in the trio of Florian Balogun, 24-year-old center forward for Monaco, Timothy Weah, 26-year-old right side everything for Marseille, and Alex Freeman, 21-year-old right back for Villarreal, who made the move in January and has only been playing top-level football for 2 years now. Alex Freeman is probably the name more than any other. He's 21 now. If he has a big year at Villarreal next season, definitely look for some links for Barcelona if they don't bring in another fullback this offseason. For Paraguay, I don't think, looking at their qualifying campaign, like they're going to be a very fun team to play against or even to watch, but they're definitely not pushovers. Former La Masia player Antonio Sanabria is now 30 and plays for Cremonese in Italy, but I'm watching 23-year-old center midfielder Diego Gomez, who moved to Brighton in the winter from Inter Miami. He's got a fun combo of grit and flair in his game, and he did learn 1 or 2 things from Rodrigo de Paul and Messi. 20-year-old attacking left back Alexandre Maidani, who plays his club ball in Argentina, could make a name for himself too at this tournament. In Australia, I had one of my toughest tests here. They're not only an older squad, but I just don't see a lot of Barcelona quality in here. I do wonder if 34-year-old Levante goalkeeper Matthew Ryan will be sticking around with Levante next season since they barely survived relegation. 20-year-old Watford forward Nestoroy Irankunda was signed from Australia to Bayern Munich before going to Watford, and he would be the breakout player for this experienced Australia side if they do get one. For Turkey, we unfortunately have to go back to Real Madrid. Arda Güler is one of the 2 big players to watch for Turkey, and Kenan Yildiz deserves our attention too from Juventus. Can Uzun is the exciting 20-year-old attacking midfielder for Eintracht Frankfurt, but we did already see him in the Champions League, and that position is also, as I keep mentioning, attacking midfield, completely stacked to Barcelona, so there are other picks in this tournament for me, even at that position. Time for Group E, and it's Germany first. There's no Marc-Andre Ter Stegen in this one. It was form, it was fitness, so he'll be out. A nightmare 36 months for him. But Germany does have some other fun names to pick from. Nathaniel Brown, likely on his way to Bayern Munich. The 22-year-old Frankfurt left back who could have also played for the U.S., but he was right to bet on himself to not only, again, make the German national team and already generally on his way to Bayern Munich. The other players to watch are all names you already know, but I do say I guess we can watch Nico Schlotterbeck to see what he might have looked like in a Blaugrana shirt. Curacao was a challenge, but I did find one, and I had to go back in the deep recesses of my brain. For those of you who've been with me for now going on 9 years, you might remember the name Richedly Bazor was linked to Barcelona as a 20-year-old defensive midfielder with Ajax, again going back 9 years. Things didn't go the way that he wanted to with his ceiling, but he's still going to a World Cup with Curacao, now 29 years old and playing his club football in Turkey. So yes, Bazor, that's my name for Curacao. for the Ivory Coast. And speaking of 9-year-old Lynx, their eldest player is Jean-Michel Seri, who was at Nice and linked to Barcelona back in 2017. Now he's 34 years old and the oldest player on the Ivory Coast. Yeah, that makes me feel young too. But he's not our guy. That's 19-year-old Yan Diomande, who's not only the pick for me, but for many, many people as one of the top 5 players to watch in this tournament. A current left winger for RB Leipzig, but I'm not sure for how long. He's out of Barcelona's price range, and Anthony Gordon being on the left wing also means that's probably not happening, but he would have been a dream signing to pair with that other side from Lamine Yamal. Frank Kessié is also the captain of Cote d'Ivoire, and I'm also throwing in center back Ousmane Diomande from Sporting CP in there too as another player to watch. He's right-footed, but he's physically so much of what Barca would be looking for. So yes, the final name here, Ousmane Diomande, in an Ivory Coast team with a bunch of exciting players of both Barcelona past and maybe potential future. Ecuador is frustrating because Ecuador are so good defensively and are one of those teams that has a ton of really good defensive prospects that I'm excited to watch. Unfortunately, so many of them are already spoken for. The name I'm going with is the one most likely to make the next big move. We saw him with Club Brugge in the Champions League, but let's double down on 22-year-old center back Joel Ordonez. He's also right-footed, but again, physically does so many good things and is decent on the ball too. My curiosity also goes to 19-year-old attacking midfielder Kenry Paez. He's on loan from Chelsea to River Plate, and for any South American prodigy, I wonder how his story is going to play out. On to Group F we go, and we begin with the Netherlands. Outside of Frankie de Jong, Culers are rightfully curious about Mickey van de Ven, 25-year-old left-footed Tottenham center back, and a player that, due to Tottenham staying up, will likely stay with Spurs, maybe? He's one of the fastest players around, and I think Barcelona could still come for him. Memphis Depay is also there, and he is always one to watch for a ton of different reasons. For Japan, the obvious answer is also a Barcelona link player, and that's Takefusa Kubo. The former La Masia and longtime Liga player will have a ton of responsibility, and it's kind of surprising he just turned 25 this week. I'm also watching the keeper for Japan in Zion Suzuki. The 23-year-old plays for Parma and was born in the same place that my father was 40 years plus apart, so of course that's a fun little reason for me to watch him. 21-year-old Kosuke Godo of Sint-Truidense, on loan from Anderlecht in Belgium, models his game after Harry Kane, so he'll be interesting to see coming off the bench. I'm still waiting for that next great Japan talent to arrive that I think would be a good Barcelona fit, but while I think we might have to wait a bit longer, I don't know. You also never know what happens and where Kubo might want to play in the future. In Sweden, there's no Rooney Bardghji to talk about. That's a whole thing to look up and talk about later, but I'm going to go with the guy that spurned Barcelona and Lucas Bergvall. The 20-year-old chose Tottenham over Barca, which was the best thing for his career, honestly. So good for him in that way. But I do like what he can do, and I'm interested to see what he can do on this stage after what it was a disappointing season at Spurs, just all around as a team. Tunisia's tough. They do have some young prospects, but I very much see them going to PSG more than I do anywhere else. But we're going to take left winger Ismail Ghiarbi. He was linked with Barca years ago, coming from PSG's youth system, but it never happened, and he also never broke through in Paris. Instead, he's now 22 years old, and he plays for Augsburg on loan from Braga. The other Tunisia pick is the attacking midfielder Hannibal Mezbri from Burnley. If they don't get grouped, the man named Hannibal will likely have something to do with it. On to Group G we go, and we begin with Belgium. Belgium is more, yes, the end of the golden generation, so is this going to be the last chance that we all get to see Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku? Is this their last World Cup? But those two actually aren't the name that I'm looking for here. Instead, that is 21-year-old center forward Matias Fernandez Pardo from Lille. He didn't really score much this season with Lille and probably won't start for Belgium, but people smarter than me are saying that this is the guy we should watch for Belgium, and I'd like to know why. Amadou Onana has long been admired by a ton of online Culés, so I'll be watching him in the middle of the park for Belgium too. With Egypt, other than Hamza Abdelkarim, of course I already mentioned him, don't think he's going to play too much, this is the Omar Marmoush show. Man City would want too much for Barcelona to go for him, but he should still be considered an alternate for Barcelona at the 9 after Julian Alvarez. And of course, saying goodbye to Mohamed Salah, who is reportedly rooming with Hamza to help him figure it all out. Mohamed Salah has always been a class act, and fortunately, he might be helping Barcelona on his way out. With Iran, of course, we cannot ignore everything happening between the United States and Iran and how world politics affects this team. What they've had to go through in this journey just to get here. The face of the team is 33-year-old Olympiacos striker Mehdi Taremi, and I can't possibly imagine the emotional release that you'll see with any goal for Iran in this tournament. This is one of those things that does transcend sport, and it is certainly, for many, many different reasons, the thing to watch in this tournament. To New Zealand, this is the one that I feel like I'm some for. I don't have anybody to tell you about related to Barcelona's past, related to their future, and certainly not to their present. They just lost 4-0 in a friendly to Haiti. Chris Wood, that's the 34-year-old captain leading the line, and the only reasonably big name to throw at you. Tyler Bindon is the 21-year-old Sheffield United center back, so I guess because he's a 21-year-old center back, we're going to go with Bindon on this one. But yeah, New Zealand, it's a tough one for me for the Kiwis. In Group H, this is Spain's group. So yes, I'll make sure again to remind you that we're going to be doing the watch along. So whether it's the United States or Spain, we will be watching along. So I'm not telling you to watch any of the players on Spain in particular, just telling you we're going to be watching all of them. There are 8 Barcelona players in this, and because of Anthony Gordon, I don't think we have to worry about Victor Munoz, other than maybe Real Madrid coming for him this offseason. But it seems like with that election, that Florentino Perez is looking for much bigger names than Victor Munoz this summer. Cape Verde is another pretty challenging one, but let's go with 25-year-old center back Logan Costa. He did make 2 league appearances for Villarreal this season, and he might have made more if he wasn't out the whole season with an ACL injury and just returning for the end of the season. Cape Verde did just beat Serbia 3-0 in a friendly last week, so maybe there were some more players to watch than meets the eye, at least in the preview. Cape Verde, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, Uruguay, and Spain, boy, they would have one of the upsets of the tournament if they're able to take down Spain or Uruguay. For Saudi Arabia, I think the correct answer is 26-year-old right back Saoud Abdelhamid, who played a bunch for second place Ligue 1 side Lens. He wasn't the starter this year, but he did serve a role in what was a second place campaign for the team in France. No, I can't expect to be linked with Barcelona, but I have to pick one for every team, so here we are for Saudi Arabia. To Uruguay, I feel like other than Ronald Araujo, we might just have to do a bit of hate watching for Fede Valverde. And if not Fede Valverde, I know you don't want to hear this because he hasn't played very much playing in Saudi Arabia right now. But yeah, Barcelona is looking for a discount number 9. And while they aren't necessarily doing the discount part of it, as the summer goes on, that number might get less and less. And Darwin Núñez might be available. Núñez turns 27 during the tournament, and remember, he was playing for Cancelo's parent club, Al Hilal, this season, and is probably looking for a way back to Europe. Scoring some goals at this World Cup would put him back on some teams' radars. Just don't think it's going to be Barcelona. In Group I, France, who is the other, I think, top 2 favorites. With Spain, they, of course, have a ton of players to watch, Jules Koundé being the Barcelona one. But outside of Koundé, hopefully regaining some confidence, and the Madrid players, and Ousmane Dembele, let's just say players that I think would be a good fit for Barcelona. The 2 that jump out to me are 23-year-old PSG left winger Bradley Barcola and 26-year-old Crystal Palace center back Maxime Lacroix. Lacroix is right-footed, but again, he is the right profile. I don't think I need to tell you much more about France other than maybe a Lucas Digne sighting, because yes, he did play at Barcelona for you younger fans many years ago. On to Senegal, and Senegal is sneaky fun. They have, as I'm going through this squad, a ton of players that I'm excited to watch for this tournament. The 4 names, I'm giving you 4 names, are 20-year-old left winger Asane Diao, who left Real Betis for Como last season, 18-year-old right winger Ibrahim Mbaye, who plays for PSG, but I would love to see him swap those big metropolitan cities, 18-year-old midfielder Baro Sapoko Ndiaye, and 22-year-old Monaco midfielder Lamine Camara. I've put all of these on internal lists of young players to watch, so here they are, all 4 of them. In the meantime, we also get to say goodbye to 34-year-old Sadio Mane. So yes, Senegal is one of my most exciting teams to watch in this tournament. A World Cup warm-up draw with Spain might have let people know that Iraq might be a team that you want to consider more than we would have before. No chance do I think any of these players ever play for Barcelona, but I do want to give a look to Venezia's 22-year-old left winger Farko Farji. He deserves a look because my fiance did get me a Venezia jersey that I have worn on the YouTube channel before. So yes, it is a stretch, but I think if I stretch far enough, there's something there for me to pick. Norway, Holland. All right, let's move on. I'm just kidding a little bit, but yes, it's Erling Haaland for Norway to watch. Odegaard's going to help him. But there is also 22-year-old left winger Andreas Sletterup of Benfica and 21-year-old left winger Antonio Nusa of RB Leipzig. They've both been linked with Barca in the last few weeks, so they are the picks. They're competing on that left wing with Bodo Glimt's Jens Petter Hag. He is 26, will never play for Barca, but I appreciate the journey he and his team took me on during the Champions League this season. With 3 players in the squad, Bodo Glimt is actually the best represented club in this Holland team. And lastly, did you see their World Cup photo shoot? There is nothing that's going to beat that in preparation of this tournament. On to Group J and on to Argentina. Have you ever heard of Lionel Messi? Yeah, I know you have. So yes, it's Messi. There is really no other answer, but obviously there is. Julian Alvarez, that's the name being linked to Barcelona more than anybody else this summer, but there's also so many other good picks here. Nico Paz is probably the other name to see, but only because he's coming back to Real Madrid. So not watching with a good feeling, but just what Real Madrid might be getting on the cheap this summer. Valentin Barco is also young and fun, but he's heading to Chelsea. Christian Romero is the center back. Who knows where he winds up if he leaves Tottenham. And there's also a bunch of Atleti players on Argentina too. 6 in total from Atletico Madrid, the most of any club representing Argentina. To the north of Africa and Algeria, they've got a 20-year-old attacking midfielder for Bayer Leverkusen, Ibrahim Massa. He was linked to Barca when he was with Hertha Berlin before the move to Bayer Leverkusen, and he is Algeria's really exciting player in the middle, despite most likely not actually starting in the tournament. Combine that with Amin Gurri, the former Nice wonderkin from a few years ago who is now at Marseille, and there is a chance for more upsets like the one in a friendly in the last week against the Netherlands for Algeria. For Austria, of course, it is likely the final hurrah of David Alaba, but there's some exciting prospects as well. The 2 names that jump out to me are 20-year-old PSV central midfielder Paul Vanner and 22-year-old Borussia Dortmund center midfielder Carney Chukwuemeka. Chukwuemeka reportedly picked Chelsea over Barca a few years ago from Aston Villa, and he moved permanently to Germany last summer. He didn't see his international chances being much with England, so he made the swap to get to the World Cup, and it's worked out for him. Vanner came up with Bayern Munich and is now finding himself as a defensive midfielder with PSV over in the Eredivisie. Rounding out Group J with Jordan, again, there's one answer, and it's very likely not linked to Barcelona. Musa Al-Tamari is a 28-year-old right winger from Rennes whose birthday is a day before the tournament begins, so happy birthday to him, and best of luck against Argentina. The 2 youngsters are 20-year-old forward Ode Al-Fakuri and Ibrahim Abra, playing for Pyramids and Egypt and Göztepe and Turkey respectively. And while they might be the young and exciting players for Jordan, again, not really Barca quality. Group K, and it's time for Portugal. Unfortunately, my neighbor's son told me he's excited to watch the World Cup and he's excited to watch Cristiano Ronaldo, so I'm all bummed about that. I lost another one, Culers, so I'm so sorry. So Cristiano Ronaldo, yeah, I don't have to tell you anything more about him in his final World Cup hurrah. Former Barca man, Francisco Trincao, could have more importance to Portugal than you think. Same with João Felix. And I say that, João Felix, right? I think it might be Trincao over Felix. And I guess Culers will watch Rafael Leao and think what might have been or not with all the negative too, and looking at Cancelo and say what probably still is going to be. Nelson Semedo was also there, and Bernardo Silva could end the tournament, announcing that he's either coming to Barcelona or going to Atletico Madrid. As is the case with other Portugal sides of the past two, there's a ton of future, past, or never links to Barcelona. For the Democratic Republic of Congo, I am going with 21-year-old Lille midfielder Ngale Mukaku. He isn't talked about much outside of France, and I also probably butchered the pronunciation, but I did see a Barcelona link for the box-to-box midfielder. As expected for a box-to-box midfielder, he covers a ton of ground over in France for Lille, and he could see a big move with a positive tournament. For Uzbekistan, we have another challenge on our hand. While a La Masia youngster has just arrived from Uzbekistan, again, he's a player we're not going to talk about for a few more years. So talking about the World Cup squad, the one name you have to go with is, of course, Man City center back Abdulkadir Kusanov. He's the only player anybody will likely be able to name from this Uzbekistan team. So I'm actually going to also say 22-year-old right winger Abazbek Fazulyev, who plays in Turkey, to keep them guessing. To Colombia, this is a really curious team outside of Luis Diaz. I feel like it's Colombia. They're going to have some big names. There's going to be players to watch. But actually, I think while they have the talent, there's a ton of questions, and I don't see that much Barcelona quality here. 30-year-old right back Daniel Munoz of Crystal Palace got linked to Barcelona this season, and I like how Cucho Hernandez hit the ground running for Real Betis after coming over from MLS. Former Barca defender Ili Mina is there too, and so is James Rodriguez. This is not a young squad, though, so it's hard to find the up-and-coming players. Gustavo Puerta is 22 and the youngest in the squad, and he should be arriving to the Liga with Racing Santander next season. Finally, we are almost there. Group L, we begin with England. Harry Kane, right? That must be the name. Plenty of Barca links, but he'll probably be staying at Bayern Munich. But that, of course, is the player to watch. Also, Anthony Gordon. Also, Marcus Rashford. And there's Bukayo Saka and Jude Bellingham. There is no shortage of players to watch for England. Kobe Manu, that's still the 21-year-old that I would like to be watching in this tournament, seeing if not only can he get back in the good graces at Manchester United, which he's done, but see what he might be able to do in this tournament if he has a role to fill. For Croatia, Culers will already have seen dreams signing Josko Gvardiol, and I've already talked plenty about Luka Vuskovic, the 19-year-old center-back with Hamburg, on loan from Tottenham. He's right-footed, and the Barca links have naysayers getting louder, but the World Cup is a good spot for both of these players to prove people wrong. For you, the Liga lovers, Osasuna's Ante Budimir will likely be joining Luka Modric and even Perisic for their last go-arounds here for Croatia. For Ghana, it is a pretty veteran team. Again, not a lot of up-and-coming players, so we're again going to go with Man City's newest signing, Antoine Semenyo. And other than Semenyo, I've also always got to shout out Iñaki Williams, who, while his brother is playing for Spain in Nico Williams, Iñaki Williams is going to have to be the beneficiary of some of that Semenyo magic. And with Panama, we end with another and final challenge here. Based on their ages, their youngest player is 24 years old, and their talent ceilings, yeah, it's a tough one here. I'm going with Jose Cordoba, a 25-year-old left-footed center back for Norwich City. Being left-footed, you never know which club might like what they see against England and Croatia and go for him in the summer. So there it is. I've got to rest my voice. I've got to take a nap before the games start on Thursday. Again, keep a lookout for all that stuff for the watch-along, and we can have time to discuss each and every one of these players and more throughout this tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be crazy. And I'll be on the watch-alongs. I'll be here on certain days, certain games, also reviewing Barcelona news throughout the off-season and the summertime. So yes, there is so much going on. Please subscribe. And please, I don't usually ask this hard, but if you're with me for this video this late in the game, I do ask for some support on Patreon. It's going to help me to get through the summer months and keep making shows going into next season. I always appreciate that and those that are helping me out already. And as always, until next time, please enjoy the kickoff of the World Cup. Enjoy it with me. And as always, until next time, Forza Barca.